Check 1, 2. Oh, my audio is still not coming through very loud. Check, check, check. Oh, okay. And we'll do 0. That should work. Okay. Um, okay. I guess I'll do an intro. This is my AMA. I'm Merric 15th. This is my AMA for qualifications for Polaris because we require that and it's a good idea. So this is that recording. We're going to go through questions when people show up, / the ones that I have been given online. So Remen is here. He can ask questions first and we'll start going.
So what's your opinion on the funding proposal that was just passed by the COM?
Oh, I've got to read that one up better. That was the one. Remind me, was that the one that it was based on the amount of populace you had? Was the amount of funding you had to send in, or was it flat across the board?
It was a flat 500 per kingdom, and then there was what they referred to as a capitation fee that would be based on population. And I guess the point I most want you to comment on is what do you think about the fact that there is no way to deal with kingdoms that haven't paid AI money in years?
Oh, the no penalties. I'm not a fan of the no penalties. I think that if we are going to require people to pay money, we require kingdoms to pay money to participate in the game, there has to be some kind of negative effect for not paying it. I understand that some kingdoms don't have financial benefits like we do, and we're going to see those kingdoms struggle. Part of me wants those kingdoms to then recombine to be able to be strong enough to actually maintain funds. I don't think Polaris has ever really had a problem with funds kingdom wide. Like even when we didn't have any income for a year, we were still pretty well set. And there was years at the beginning where we didn't have a ton of money, but there are very easy methods of raising money, and becoming a 501c3 is not terribly difficult. Throwing that on top and being able to fundraise means you can get money and should have the money so that we can run our game as a whole. We'll see if that changes in the next year, if we add penalties or not, but I think we should have penalties for kingdoms that aren't paying. I mean, everyone should have equal say, but we do have a level of contribution that needs to be happening and occurring.
Just to be clear, in the base funding proposal, there are penalties for kingdoms that don't pay the 500.
Oh, it's just the past ones?
Yeah, like there's kingdoms that are thousands of dollars in arrears to AI.
Right. So I don't know, it's hard and tricky. If we punish them for, I mean, we could do a payment plan essentially, but the other thing we could look at is, do they have the funds? Like, if it's $500 plus an extra amount based on your populace, if you can't afford to do that and you're one of the kingdoms that also owes a bunch of money, you should probably look at combining with other kingdoms around you to be more financially stable. If you haven't paid any of the fees in the past, there might be something we need to allow AI to step in and like take control a little bit, or try to figure out a way to work some of that money back. Um, if we create a standard that each kingdom has to maintain X amount of money and certain financial and legal like they have to be a 501c3, they have to have at least $500 in savings at all times or something like that, whatever, then we can start looking and seeing if uh, those kingdoms that haven't been able to pay, if they should really continue to be a kingdom, or if we should figure out a way to make them viable. Uh, if if they're thousands of dollars in debt to AI needs money to run, and especially with our lawsuit, that was a lot of money. In going forward, we're going to try to make, I believe there's plans for website advancement, database advancement and like improvements on the org, which take time and money, and we need those to move forward to make our game more streamlined and effective. We could look to other games like SCA and see the other one that does that nationally, Boohurt, I think, where the national is kind of the only thing that has money and exists, and everything else is held locally. And finding out how they distribute money might help us. Um, I don't have a perfect answer now, but I have some ideas that we might be able to push.
I'm just curious because I guarantee you're going to hear about it.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Welcome, Cena.
Hello.
Do you have any questions for me?
I got distracted by Bremen's answer, and our Bremen, we can't possibly. Those are heavily suggested donations. We shouldn't have to pay into AI, right?
I don't know. I don't know. The amount of work
Don't
they
get me on
do.
my soapbox, Cena.
We can do that when Bremen runs for office on a kingdom level.
I want Bremen to run for senator and just start yelling at people.
Hey,
That seems like a good reason why we shouldn't run for senator.
Hola, Dalia.
Let's see here.
Hello.
I know we literally just had a big sit down conversation on Saturday.
It was more about individual things and like specifics, but
That's true.
I'll do one while you're looking that up. I'll do one from our Facebook. Hopper asks, "How do you feel about how many classes can now curse many players on every life? Do you think there are currently any good counters to this? If not, what could be implemented or adjusted to make it a good counter?" So, for those of you that weren't paying attention, anti-paladin's Steel Life is now rechargeable, and rechargeable Steel Life means that if you're not using it to charge something else, you should always be using it to recharge itself. So, Steel Life, charge Steel Life, which adds a cursed effect. You had your hand raised, Cena. What's that?
Quick aside, I can't for the life of me figure it out. Are anti-paladins poisons one a life or one a refresh?
It's one a life. So because either way, because they voted the packet with the anti-paladin changes through, and then the additional packet also had a change to poison, and it also went through. Because they're not contradictory, they both go through, which means poison is now once per life, charge times 3 or something like that, whatever.
I saw it was wrong on what's his name's cheat sheet, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't misunderstanding something.
Yeah, both of them went through. There was a stipulation on one of them that was if the packet doesn't pass, this was what goes through, but if the packet passes, you ignore this one. That was the
Gotcha.
resurrect becomes rechargeable, but they did not want to give paladins a rechargeable greater resurrect, which is
That's fair.
logical. So
All right.
for
So
Hopper's
anyway,
question,
back to what you were saying.
so now that player, okay, so keeping track, wizards, healers, assassins, anti-paladins have a very easy time cursing people on a very regular basis due to Steal Life Essence on recharge and assassinate. Basically, this is only affecting players that want to be excuse me, want to be resurrected. That means the healers are the ones that are going to have to get around it. The basic answer to this is use Greater Release on recharge. That is 3 extra points you're normally not used to, and Greater Release being a once per refresh ability is going to be a charge times 10. I think what pushing more classes towards having Cursed is going to do is also push the caster classes to have more heavy effective support. So we essentially just slowed down the Resbot cycle of resurrect, charge it, resurrect, recharge, resurrect with innate, recharge innate, recharge summon dead something, resurrect it, and then continue that cycle over and over again. We're just going to have to add a Greater Release in there, which slows things down once again. But because innate is faster than both resurrect and Greater Release, you're still going to be recharging your innate to recharge your Greater Release, and recharging your innate to recharge your resurrect. So it's just adding extra steps. Battery bards are going to become more effective, and otherwise, because our respawn times are so fast and we don't play with life pools very often, so resurrect's not needed. I don't know if it's actually going to make that big of a difference. It might mean people stay in place more often because being cursed means summon dead doesn't work. Uh, I don't know. I don't think it actually changes the game that much, but in life pool games specifically, it's going to be a difference. Okay, Cena, did you pull up one of your questions?
Sorry, eating quick. There we go. Do you plan on working very for our future senator is, or are you going to kind of let them be off and do their own thing?
I'm going to want to know what's going on. I'm not going to force decisions or anything on Hamlet because Hamlet's the only one running again, as far as I know. Um, the the plan basically is to let Hamlet continue making the decisions and making the population of Polaris talk to him and figure out what Polaris wants, and then going from that point, um, I'm not going to step on his toes, but I will ask questions and figure out and discuss things. And then if there is something that we find is problematic or potentially misunderstood, I'd want to make sure that we inform our population that this is the reason we're voting against what you want is because we found something that makes it worse, basically. Um, Kind of like the most recent change for scouts, making adaptive blessing, adaptive protection, and making and keeping the extraordinary. Without the rules change that Manama put in, or rules clarification that Manama put in today, that meant that scouts could just put on an adaptive protection of whatever school, have a bard give them an empower so they get that per life back, and then keep reinstalling new class or new schools of immunities on themselves until they're immune to all but spirit, because adaptive protection does not protect from spirit. Um, Specifically, Manama put in rules clarification that you may not wear more than one instance of an extraordinary enchantment, which means can't stack the same thing on top. But that was something that some of us noticed and needed to try to convince other people that this could be really problematic without a clarification. And the change went through, and Manama put a clarification in, so we're good on that end. But things like that, where there might be a second or third layer that people aren't seeing, we're going to try to make sure that that gets cleared to the population. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Another question. Since you're going to be picking certain bids, what are you looking for in a bid? Like, what would you like to see? What would you consider things that you would choose?
I want bids to show me their finances uh, and breakdown of, like, if we get 100 people, this is how much we come underneath budget or how much we come over budget. If we get 130, this is what we get. If we get 150, this is what we get. Because especially with the way, like, we're coming out of the whole lockdown and COVID and everything, because we've done 2 or 3 cycles of that now. It's hard to figure out how many people are showing up to an event, and all of the metrics we've been using in the past have been ineffective recently. So uh, utilizing backup plans and making sure that we are profitable on every event, uh, kind of regardless of how many people show up, um, should allow us to create a better system and a better setup for our events, so that even if we only get 130 people at an event, we're still coming in on top. Um, Now, I know that that's tricky and slightly more work for autocrats, but as one of the people that just ran an event, it saves a lot of time on the back end if you already know your breakdowns and you can tell your feastocrats, like, hey, I think we're showing up with X amount of people and we have X amount of money in the bank. Let's prepare for this amount of food, because basically everything else is a static number at that point. Like, everything else you already have an effect on, or you already know what the exact price is. Food is the only thing that's a little variable. And for my food budget, it was 20%, like 20% of my budget or something. So it wasn't a super large portion of my budget. Everything else was already making up most of it. Being able to create a bid that is going to show us that you could make money with this event and still have things that people want and still be able to bring a good event to our kingdom, those are the things I'm going to be looking for. I know with $500 being our dues to AI every year, I think our annual running cost is like $5,000 or something like that for our board of directors.
Quick clarification: did that actually pass?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was one of the items that had failed. Proceed.
I think $5,000 is how much we need per year to run, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. If five's high, that's technically better for us if we're aiming for that. We run essentially 4 big events a year. Those 4 events need to be making like $1,200 each. Or making $1,200 in profit in order to cover our running expenses. So I will be looking at finances a lot. I'll be looking at the setup, and I'll be looking at the team as well. We want to make sure that if you have a bunch of new hot shots, that they have the support behind them to make some risks, but also be able to double check with some masters and make sure they're not going to fall flat on their face. Yeah. But what bids do I get? I get Dungeon Day. Why can't I think? I get Dungeon Day and
Polaricon.
Polaricon.
No,
No, Polaricon's already decided.
It's
Yeah.
Oh no,
MAME.
you're right.
Yeah, it's
Mame.
It's MAME. There we go.
There it is.
MAME will be doing at Polaricon.
Yes. So I get 2 big ones, and then already working on I've already talked to people about a Relic Quest and other things. So if you have an idea for an event that you want to run during my reign, talk to me about it, or show me the money and finances on it, and we can figure out how to make something happen. Yeah.
Yeah, which is actually another one of my questions. Are you planning on running a Relic Quest or Kingdom Day?
Yeah, so we already have Relic Quest. The weekend we originally wanted is unavailable at the site we want, so we're playing with that, trying to get things to work. I've got an autocrat and a questocrat for it, and we will be handing out not all of the relics, but 5 to 7 of the relics on that day, and Polaricon will have a few more. I think Polaricon will have the rest technically, which I think is 11 or 12 relics total. Relic Quest will be cue ball style world quests, so you'll have different quest givers, and you'll want to go to them based on which relic you want to achieve and get your name entered in for, and then perform the tasks that they require. It'll be fun. We'll have more information on that once we have a date locked in. Any other questions on that one? All right, I'm going to answer another one from the Facebook then. And if you have questions that you don't want to say out loud or you want to just type, put them in the general chat and I'll find them. Q-Ball asks, in the song Bling Bling by BG, it states, stack my cheese up because one day I'm going to give this street life up. My question is, did BG ever finally give the street life up? In 2014, BG was arrested with stolen guns in his trunk and is currently serving 14 years in prison. So no, he did not give up the street life. I hope that's a good enough answer for Q-Ball. Had to actually do research.
Hey, Merric, I got a flurb question for you.
What? Shoot.
So, name one superhero team that the Power Rangers could defeat and one team that they would be defeated by.
Okay, I need a clarification. Are we talking Power Rangers from the show or Power Rangers from the comics?
I'm not at all familiar with one comic, so probably the show, but I don't know. Answer it however you want.
Okay. So, okay. It depends on which Ranger team because each Ranger team has different power levels, and I would say until like 1v1ing Superman, the Rangers are going to have a really good time fighting most Power Rangers because they fight villains with similar skills. Superman's one of the ones that's going to be very tricky for them because they don't know or have kryptonite, which doesn't help them. And all of their weapons are basically energy weapons, so it'd probably be a several stage fight of them getting their butts kicked for a while until something happened. I'd say the classic DC team, besides, oh no, that'll work really well. Justice League Dark. The Power Rangers could take on that team and win 9 times out of 10. Constantine could summon a demon and that'd be a problem. But then again, in Power Rangers Rescue, the main villain and enemies are all demons and they deal with them fine. So that should be okay. Superman or Homelander would cause a lot of problems for them, and Galactus would kick their butt. They might be able to beat Thanos because they have stupid luck. And they play with time sometimes, so they might be able to defeat Thanos, but like certain other villains in Marvel and DC they'd have more problems with. They'd kick the crap out of all the Lantern Corps, though. They just steal those things. I'm gonna answer one from the questionnaires that Wheeze has. How did you first get into Amp Zach Balder, we started beating each other up with lightsabers in my front yard and then decided we were getting bruises, so we put on hockey armor, hockey and lacrosse gear, and then we continued to beat each other up until we figured out how to make better / different weapons and put foam on them, and continued to do that until we went to a boffer room in college and learned about safe foam fighting, and then didn't know where to go for it until Concordia from Icehaven. Now I think she's in Mists now. Got brought in by Valdathane, and then we went to Icehaven Park, and then I've been very public about what I've been doing ever since. But it started with Zach and I and a couple of our friends beating the shit out of each other with lightsabers covered in a stick of foam. No stab tips at all. Just literally a straight stick of foam on top of the lightsaber.
I like how you, rather than like the first step you jumped to was let's throw on padding, not let's find something better to hit each other with.
We've played, okay, all my friends and I have played hockey, lacrosse. Some of them played football for years, so we're all used to putting on equipment. We're like, yeah, it'll look like and count like armor. And we built an armor system, and we built a bunch of other rules, and various like weapon weights did different things. It was like a really, really ghetto version of Bell with way more points of armor, and 100% less safety. So we did that in my front yard for a while until we all went off to college. I think it was about 2 years of just summers of beating each other up. Does anybody else have any questions? I see we have a bunch of people that joined in.
What's your favorite Power Ranger season?
Time Force has the best writing. Mighty Morphin has got a special place in my heart, but so does Ninja Storm, Mystic Force, and Dino Thunder. But I think I have to go with the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Yeah, I've got to go with the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I dig it.
It's not good writing though. Like most of Power Rangers writing is terrible. It's just bad writing. Like it's a show for children.
It's classic 90s child show writing. Like
Yes.
if you ever go back and watch some of the stuff you used to watch as a kid, you're like, I can understand why I liked this, but I understand why the adults around me did not want to watch it.
Yep. Time Force doesn't have that problem.
Honestly, considering especially for Mighty Morphin, they were writing in scenes with Japanese clips and they're just desperately tying it all together, that's pretty impressive.
Well, so Mighty Morphin is the only one we have 3 seasons of from one set of footage, and it's not even technically a full series of footage because the way that Saban purchased the footage, he only got limited use of. So by season 3 of Mighty Morphin, they are stretching real thin on like anything that they have left to try to figure out how to make a storyline out of it. So in the future, they decided to buy a full season and try to turn it into one season of content instead of buy one season and stretched into 3. It's better, but the writing is still fine.
I think my favorite part about Mighty Morphin is that the White and Green Ranger were never a part of that original footage. So, like, in the first 2 seasons, you don't see the Green Ranger on screen at the same time as some of the other Rangers, unless it's a fight scene, and then they had to re-record those fight scenes, or
Yeah.
like with replica costumes, because they weren't originally a part of the same series.
Because the white tiger outfit for Tommy is technically part of the next season of like Gokai Sentai or something like that, and
Hmm.
he has like there's like 4 scenes where he has armor and is next to the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and that's it. And they had to reuse that like 90 times just to make it look like he was there. It's very interesting. Like as an adult now, it's almost more interesting trying to figure out what they were doing and like where they got this footage from in order to make these episodes than it is to just watch the show.
Yeah, or looking back at the quality changes in where like you can see that that's a replica suit filmed with a 90s camera as opposed to the original suit filmed with an 80s camera.
Yes. Yeah. It is very obvious, especially in like the mid 2000s when they're like, we bought the 1998 footage. Okay, it's now 2006, so that is a completely different grade of film. What do we do?
Right.
It was the White Ranger was actually a kid, but then they turned it into Tommy and then switched that gimmick to the Blue Turbo Ranger, right?
So Sentai, I think the White Ranger was a kid. There was a lot of switching and team changes. People actually die in the Super Sentai versions. Like there's 4 or 5 there's 4 or 5 episodes where like the Rangers, they had to scrap the Ranger suits afterwards because there's fake blood all over them. And like the Super Sentai version is for teenagers to adults because it's dark. Like the first episode where Rita shows up, she blows up a city and builds a tower on top of it and then takes it over and then murders a bunch of children.
Good.
Like on screen. Like it's really violent. um the people in charge, which was Saban at the time, Saban and Fox at the time, when Turbo came out, they thought the best way to make kids interested in the show was to put a kid on the show. That went over horribly. No one wanted it. They got terrible ratings. The kid could not act. Turns out the kid can actually fight. Now he's an MMA fighter, so like he had something, but it did not go well for them for advertising. Any other questions? Or I'll keep going through my lists I've got.
Did you already answer my question?
I did. Basically, I'm going to see greater release a lot more often.
So I think that they should totally, I mean, like, originally Assassin can curse people just like all the fucking time, yet we don't see tons of cursed players. It kind of happens seldomly from what I've seen. And if it ends up being a problem, I think they should give like charge times 10 to G release for like healers. Otherwise, like if there's tons of cursed players and there's no answer, then that kind of nullifies what would it be? Kill count games?
So in the in the kill count games, I think you're going to see G release be taken with experience. So you get the charge times 10 on it, and then you're going to get innate, and you're going to use the innate on the G release. Oh no, that doesn't work because the way that the innate has recharge is through priest, and you can't use it on the G release. So you're gonna have to hard recharge the G release, which I think is gonna be easier if you have a bard doing confidence. So we're gonna see a slightly more complicated version of the resbot cycle with bards involved in life pool games, but because a lot of our games are going towards just quick respawns, cursed doesn't matter that much, and especially with the classes that have a lot of per lives, just taking a death and getting your abilities back is super simple and easy. You get all your armor back, you get your weapons back, you get your abilities back. Like assassins, I'm pretty happy to take a death anytime because you have all per life abilities basically.
I really only see it making a big difference in the life pool games, and even then, like you said, it's just going to be
It's
a
gonna
more
be slow.
complicated
Yeah.
spot.
I don't think it's gonna be terrible.
I would love a charged G-Res.
A constantly charged G-Res, like you always.
Just a chargeable one though, because it's per refresh for healer. Like it's just as expensive for a healer
Right.
as it is a paladin now.
There was a proposal to move it down at one point. I don't think it got very far in the rules reps change because currently
I only think it will become a thing if like curse ends up being an issue. Because if it isn't an issue, then there's no point.
yeah if G-Res became rechargeable or became able to be experienced, then we'd see that used a lot more often. If we move G release down to level 4, because I believe it's at level 5, then it becomes in the range of experienced, and then you can use your innates on it as a priest because your priest restricts your meta magics to only work on spirit magic, and then you would be able to. I think then we'd see that as the cycle instead of the resurrect.
I didn't even think about the G release for curse though.
Second or third level. Only 2 classes get G release, so they've got to use it wisely. It's a little tricky.
Yeah, spell. Experience so fucking perfect.
Yeah, but now you're taking an ability that you need to do resbotting and turning it into a 3-point ability that is still slow without a bard. It's I'm not saying it's impossible, it's just tricky. It's complicated. Also, I think a lot of people forget that they're cursed. I think it's probably the most ignored ability on the field, or the most ignored state on the field, is that assassins should be cursing pretty much everybody they kill, with Steel Life Essence becoming a rechargeable ability for anti-paladins. They should be literally tagging any player they can in Steel Life, charging Steel Life to get more cursed on the field. And
yeah, that was my thought process when I was talking to Jamie about it, was like, even though assassin can do that all the time, you still don't see it all that often. So either assassins aren't using it or people aren't thinking about it.
I think people aren't thinking about it, honestly.
I think you also face the issue of a lot of people don't know what curse does, because every time I've Steel Life someone and said you're cursed, unless they're an experienced player who plays magic classes, that's usually, what does that do? It's like you can't be affected by spirit magic, so.
And it doesn't pop off when you die, it pops off when you resurrect, which is
right.
Just say you can't be rezzed unless it's a G-Res.
If it's a big game, I don't even I take the time to go, you can't be res, but I don't go like, you can't be affected by spirit magic, because then they're gonna be like, well, what's spirit magic? And I'm like, I don't have the time to explain that. I gotta go kill people.
I'm supposed to be killing now. Yeah.
No, not why I'm here, only that I must kill.
Assassin or barbar. That seems like fun.
Yeah, so Barbarian also has more opportunity to use it now, especially because Brutal Strike became rechargeable. It's not going to be as effective as the Steel Life Essence Charge Steel Life Essence because it's instantaneous. Barbarians are going to be able to use their Brutal Strike if they have to take the time to charge it or get a bard to confidence them, which is fine. But Brutal Strike's benefit comes in the fact that it's a hunter-killer build towards casters and warriors more than it is towards people that are going to be affected as the resurrect. It's like a warrior that gets all their points taken off. It's a lot easier for them to just resurrect, like to respawn naturally, so they get all their points of armor back instead of being resurrected and having to fix all that armor. Unless they're like warlord level and they can go kill a bunch of mooks and get their armor back through scavenge, but that's
I
not
think
super
the
common.
unlimited blood and thunder is just going to make the top tier fighters that play barbarian even higher
Yeah,
top
but
tier.
yes, yeah. Barbarian's a class that if you can't kill your targets, you can't play barbarian well, and it requires that you can kill consistently. Those that can kill consistently are going to just keep getting better and advancing
They're
because the
going to
class
be
is angled
invincible.
towards making good stick
Yeah,
better.
it's going to be unstoppable. You don't. He's like, I'm gonna be a barbarian from now on. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's you basically got to stun or shove or terror him. You deal with the cast. I mean, that's who should be going after barbarians anyways. So,
That's right.
So scary.
um, I'm gonna merge this a little bit. Sir Weasel Down from CK asks, with new rules changes, how do you see the meta of class battles changing?
Man, fuck that guy.
Scout is gonna be super important. It's already stepping up because rechargeable DMAG on the field means hella power, just constant power. You really need them on the field anyways to deal with that. Now that their adaptive protection or adaptive blessing is an adaptive protection, you're going to see them able to deal with specific casters, and in small fields, they're going to be required almost because like in small fields, if you put a bard on one side and not on the other, and nobody takes anything to counteract that bard, the bard's going to run the field by themselves. Now, a scout that can be immune to the command or death or spirit or whatever they want to be is going to be much more useful because they also have more points of armor than the bard or the wizard or the healer or whatever that is affecting the team using CC, and we're going to see scout become super important. It's going to be hard not to play a scout in place of some of your middle casters because of the DMAG, the hold person, or the DMAG, the shadow step, and the release. You cover some of the evacuation and support methods already, plus getting armor, a bow, and or a bow or shield. So I think scout's gonna be more important. Anti-paladin got more solo-y. I hope to see more anti-paladins running flanks and running small teams, and paladins just got better in groups, so they should team up together or get small groups together to move things around because extend immunities being an immunity means that they can get more command or death immunity on the field, and that means that they're harder to stop. So I think the three that got the real big boosts are paladin, anti-paladin, and scout. Barbarian got a boost if you're good at stick, which is just like 5% of our game is warlords. So those players are going to be much more effective. If you're not good at stick, barbarian actually got harder for you, I think. We're gonna have more fight after deaths on the field though, and I'm not super excited about that because it's already used unsafely often. So we'll see what that does. Does anybody else have another question, or I'll go to another one on my list? All right, we're gonna go another one from Weeze's list. What are your travel plans for the rain? So, GAC is flip a schedule. Oh, for schedule. That's where it all is. I'm going to be doing regional visits like McNichols did this rain. I think it's a good way to keep people involved, but also see everybody. And especially in winter, it's hard to reliably make every single park because not every single park has a park day every single weekend. Yeah, not also have travel literally every weekend because we have so many parks. So, GAC for the 26th to the 27th. In September, I'll be going to Keep on the Borderlands. We're a group of podcasters and videographers and photographers and TikTokers and stuff from AmpGuard are going to try to put together an advertisement for AmpGuard based on the Keep on the Borderlands footage that we get, because we're gonna have a bunch of great cameras and everything else on there. So I'll be repping Polaris and doing some things down there, as well as promoting AmpGuard as a whole. I don't have solid dates set for everything else, but I'm trying to fit in as many mini events that each park runs to try to get to, as well as a Relic Quest, a East tournament, a West tournament, and then the classic Quals and Weapon Master Dragon Master. We've got Polaricon. I think we have something in January that's in the works. I don't want to spread too much on that one. And then Dungeon Day, of course. So travel often. I'll get a schedule up later this week with better details, but I don't want to lock any parks into like, hey, you have to get a weekend site or you have to get a indoor site for my visit or whatever. I want to try to work with the park monarchs to make sure that we're visiting when it is best for them.
Are you going to be doing live commentary on the games at Keep?
Teflon and I are trying. We practiced a little bit and we're not great. It's mostly we have a hard time explaining complex strategies and tactics while they're happening. It's almost like we're going to shoutcast 2 or 3 little things like, oh, there's a flank coming on the left. This means they could crush. And it did. And it does. And the left side is down. Like, that's basically what it sounds like. And we have to go back at the end of the game and be like, okay, so hold on. When we were talking about the left side flank came in and it crushed this side, basically they were trying to rotate the flank and make the whole team turn or get them back to back so that they're completely surrounded and whatever. And we have to try to explain that theory. And it's hard to do that while it's happening. So we're going to try it. We'll see how it goes. It sounds like the Errant Dawn team is setting up a Phoenix League pickup field, and we might try to do some of that. Phoenix League is a little easier to shoutcast, so we'll see how that goes. But yes, we're going to try to do as much content creation as possible. Some live episodes, some Q&As, some like on the field reporting and shoutcasting and stuff like that. So it'll be real fun. You should all come and rep Polaris, because we can also get banners. If you pre-reg a team with at least 2 people now, and I think it's for like another couple weeks, you get a customized banner by Sir Q-Ball for your team, which I think is 10 people. It might be 8. Yeah.
If I remember right, it is 10.
Sweet. 10. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? I'm gonna go to the Facebook list. Sir Delos asks, can you tell us about the rise of P-Hog and the legend of the first knight of Polaris? So when I'm below the Mason-Dixon, I am P-Hog, which stands for Pimping Hand of God, based on Delos' decision that Merric is not a cool enough name. He does not refer to me as Merric. It is only P-Hog. So if you hear Delos yell P-Hog, he's referring to me. That was given after Jamie's knighting at Spring War. Was it the year before that? It was at a Spring War on our way back from the battlefield to the Torch Cabin, and Abazaba and Delos decided my name wasn't cool enough, and they landed on P-Hog, and they disagree if it's Pimping Hand of God or Pimp Hand of God. Either way, the Torches call me P-Hog. In that same vein, yes, a man named Abazaba decided my name wasn't cool enough. That is correct, my pickles. The first knight of Polaris, according to Delos, is Arthon. I believe it was a crafting drunken hangout night at Q-Ball's house before before one of the events. I don't remember which one. And Cue Ball, quote unquote, knighted Arthon with a kitchen knife in the living room. I mean, technically that's kind of a first night of Polaris, but not quite. If you want a better version of the story, ask Delos or ask if you can contact Arthon, you can ask Arthon, but ask Delos or Cue Ball, and they'll give you a better version of the story. Megiddo might also know the details of that story as well. I was not present, but I know Delos wants me to just bring up these ridiculous stories. And their
He
comments
did
or
make
questions.
a point. He did make a point of mentioning it when we were down there for Herc's Knighting as well.
Yes. He does like bringing up that Arthon is the first knight of Polaris, quote unquote, technically. Technically. All right. Another one from Wheeze's list is why Power Rangers. So this is a recommendation kind of from Cue Ball. When I was talking about I wanted to run for Monarch before COVID, so like 3 years ago, I was deciding on a theme, and the Lightning collection of Power Rangers had just started coming out, so they had new reasonably priced Power Ranger helmets and weapons and props and everything else like that, which I thought was really fantastic, and I was jumping in on. And I wanted to do something, but I didn't think enough people would jump in on Power Rangers because it's kind of a niche little nerdism that's very specific. Cue Ball gave me the advice stating it doesn't really matter if everyone else is involved with your rain theme. It matters if the rain theme is going to make you excited to continue throughout the rain and not drop off at some point. If you pick a rain theme that you really love and really enjoy and you can stick with it for 6 months, closer to 9 months because you're advertising for 3, then you've picked the rain theme for you. So I know that I can stay excited for Power Rangers for 9 months and continue to bring ridiculousness and hype and stuff with the props I have and the benefits and the ideas and everything else. I can bring that for 9 months. So I went with Power Rangers partially because I love it, and partially because I do kind of want to see a bunch of amp carters running around the field yelling Power Ranger things while they're swinging Power Ranger safe weapons. So it's a little bit of dream fulfillment for me of just watching a bunch of nerds hit each other like Power Rangers. Dolly asked, for the people who are unfamiliar with Power Rangers but want to learn, where do you suggest someone start to learn the lore? The Boom comics. You can watch the TV show. It's a slog. It's not good. It's content, and it's very cheesy. The Boom comics age everything up a little bit, so it's more real and more interesting for people that actually, have an attention span longer than 30 seconds and don't just want to see two big robots fighting at each other. It's a really good series, and it involves a ton of expansion beyond the original TV show. The other thing, Nichols brings up, watch the critically acclaimed 1995 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. It's not technically canon, but it's close enough. And it's a movie that it encapsulates Power Rangers very well. Yara says Boom comics are included with Comixology, which I think is included with Prime. So that's a really good way to use that. The comics also are going to give you an entirely brand new storyline that is way more adult and dark than it needs to be for something as ridiculous as Power Rangers. I won't spoil anything, but it gets really good. And then even after they beat the big bad evil guy, it continues to be interesting and real and somewhat visceral and scary. So I recommend Boom Comics to start. It's really fantastic. I have a
Can I
bunch of them. Yeah.
interject quick here? As somebody who just started down this journey, if you're going to your local comic book shop to pick up Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, be incredibly specific with which comic series you're looking for,
There's a
because
bunch.
it's complicated. Boom Comics, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is explicitly what you're looking for.
Yes, because it's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and then it does that until book 14, I think. I'm looking at it now. Is it 14 or 19? And then it turns into two different comics, which is Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers. And then after book 2 of each of those, it turns into something else. I don't remember what it is. Otherwise, you can get the big thick books that have like everything combined together. And there's a couple offshoot ones, like Soul of the Dragon is about Tommy Oliver's last time turning into the his ranger form. There's a time travel one that's based on Time Force, and there's Power Rangers Unlimited, which is a couple of the side characters getting more in depth and more backstory. You're also going to learn a lot of really weird, creepy stuff about the villains, like Finster, the weird goblin dude that makes all the putties, continually recreates his wife out of clay and then murders her because he actually hates her, and does that on a regular basis. So be prepared for some weird, terrible stuff. Any other questions on that?
That's a bit dark.
Yeah, no, he's the darkest character in that whole thing. They're like, yes, no, Rita is dark and evil and has magic powers. And you're like, what's Finster doing? Recreating his wife for the 9th time this week. Okay, moving on. Any other questions? Or I'm going to keep going with our Facebook list.
What do you look for in a good monarch?
Involvement. You can't represent and lead the kingdom and your populace if you're not involving yourself in as much as possible. If you're not trying to partake in the kingdom and culture as a whole, you're not going to be able to represent and get a feel for what's going on and try to progress the kingdom along as far as possible, and help it grow and give respond to what the kingdom wants and needs. So you need to be at events, you need to be participating in the events, you need to be trying to go to as many mini events that your kingdom is involved in. You need to be trying to promote your kingdom to other kingdoms, taking part in any of the online stuff as much as possible, making sure that you are taking the time to be present and be receptive to what's going on. That also gives you a better scope of what is happening around the kingdom, so you can award correctly and award effectively. Beyond that, keeping a level head and being calm and collected during especially the high stress times and all of the backdoor stuff that you have to deal with as monarch, and the unfun things that we all know is there but we don't really want to have to deal with, like bans and everything else. But partaking that what do you mean just at me next time, McNichols? You did a good job. Being present. Oh, all the bands. Oh, yeah. No. McNichols pointed out, and I don't actually have an ability to refute him on this, he has the most bans in a single reign.
Yeah, but like one of those was an open and shut case, so like that was some easy fucking shit.
Yeah, some of them are very open and shut, but their numbers count.
More than one.
There's a couple. I've dealt with those in the past as well, especially being KPM for 2 years. There were a couple of ones that were like, oh, this dude is being extremely homophobic and threatened to murder someone. Great. Gone. No questions asked. Let's fix the problem now. We know those things are there.
Does anyone have a sound clip of Merric saying this guy's homophobic and racist? Great, and we can just cut it right there.
I have the full recording. I'll just keep doing it. That was the Templar guy, yes. The Templar guy that showed up to like 3 parks, threatened to kill people. and then we said no. And I believe what happened is it was DaishoCon weekend, and Broton, Motap, and myself were all at DaishoCon, and we got the text. We looked it over. We read the whole thing, and then we looked up. We said, yep, I vote ban, I vote ban, I vote ban, and we walked about 10 feet over to Bremen and said, Bremen, we have a thing for the board. And that was the quickest ban I think I've ever been a part of. It was very effective. I don't want more bans, but if we're gonna get bans, I prefer them to be ones that we can prevent first. Then, like, we can by banning the person, we prevent a problem that we know is going to happen or is potentially going to happen.
Can
yeah.
you make a very excitable / crazy face so that I can screenshot it and make a meme about racism being great?
No.
Well, I'm
ban
gonna
that
make
dude
it
pronto.
so either turn your camera off or prepare your butthole.
I'm not on Boppers and Bat and whatever it's called. I'm not on B&B, so they can rip me up as much as they want there. Any other questions or comments before I jump back to other ones? Yeah, McNichols, that's a good plan. I've made a personal policy of not being on B&B while wearing the crown. It's a good plan. Odvar asks, who is your favorite jousting knight and why is it Sir Maximilian, the jousting Earl of Braden? That is because he is the best heel. He is the villain of the whole thing. He's a big, strong dude that rides a horse and tries to knock everybody else off. And he does a great job of it while showing off. Though I do want to see him use a chair, because now there's a TikTok of jousters using chairs to hit each other during the melee, and I really enjoyed it. I have not talked about the relics yet. So Yaris, I'll go into details on that. So we have the 5 basic Power Ranger weapons. The Power Sword, which is the Red Ranger's longsword, is a long. It'll be a 2-handed long that is Flame Blade. That'll be made by DX. He's finishing it up now. He should. I think I get photos next week or something like that. Blue Ranger's Power Staff is being made by Hopper. It'll be either Nuntian staff when it's in one piece as a full staff, or you can separate it and it'll turn into the Mighty Maces, which when wielding both of them, you have armor breaking. So at the beginning of the battle, you have to choose which one it's in, and then you'll be set to go. The yellow daggers, the Sabertooth Power Daggers, are being made by DX. They give you Combat Caster and Shield Crushing while wielding both of them. They're daggers, so it'll be interesting to see how that gets integrated and what people choose to do with it. The black Mastodon Power Axe is also being made by DX. That is Michael's hammer. It's pretty straightforward. It's Michael's hammer. The bow, the power bow, the pterodactyl bow, is I have a vinyl wrap I'm doing on a little bear bow. It's one of the fiberglass ones you see all over the place that are gray and have a universal handle, an ambidextrous handle. I'm doing a vinyl wrap on that to make it look like the pink Power Ranger bow. That is a bow that any class can use and gets 1 free destruction arrow. The green Dragon Dagger is in my car. The green Dragon Dagger gives you an extra use of Golem. So that basically means that it gives you Golem once per refresh. If you can already use Golem, you may now have an additional Golem active. So the Dragon Dagger is going to be pretty effective for backline casters. Saba, the white Power Ranger sword, is the Phase Blade. Rita's staff is the Necromancer's Blade from Tales of the Vardo. You get Greater Undead Minion and Necromancer and something else. I don't remember what it is. It's a pretty powerful one. And that one's being made by Hopper. Saba and the Dragon Dagger were made by Zen. The Dragon Shield that the Green Ranger wears, that gold kind of cowl over his chest. Bremen is making that one. And what else do I have? Cue Ball's asked to make the Cloak of Enigmas, which will be, if you're familiar with the comics or the show, the villain Bones has this big red like scarf cloak that he wears. That'll be that. What else do I have? Oh, Morpher is being made by Hopper. That is the Homestone. And I have a Pop Funko figure of a collectible Power Ranger. That will be the Megazord token. If you have that, you can be a Megazord by yourself. I think that's all the relics. That sounds like all my relics. It's a bunch of relics.
That's a fuck ton of relics, dude.
Yeah, it was the best.
Which are being made by Hopper.
3? No.
I was the XD guy, DX guy.
3 are being made by Hopper. 3 are being made by DX. Zen made me 2. I am making. I have 1, which isn't really any work. It's just a thing that I own. And I'm making the bow. And then Bremen's making 1, and I don't know. We'll see if I throw anything else in there. If I decide to start making more things.
Are you going to have a lootable relic like the One Ring that Lily has and no one ever remembers loot from him?
I like the idea of it, but I haven't figured out what to do with it.
I
Lily
remember
has
on the
made
way.
it a point to not go into combat situations where he might lose that ring. Like, he is 100% like, this is mine.
I remembered on the way back from Maine, I was like 2 hours into the drive home, and then I got upset because I forgot all about it.
He has gone full Schmeagle.
Fun. I think that's it for the relics. So most of them will be handed out at the Relic Quest. The remainder of them will be handed out at Polaricon or East or West tournament. I haven't matched up which ones are going. I know which ones are going at Relic Quest, and I know which ones are going at Polaricon, but the East and West ones I think I'm still playing with. But it'll kind of matter which ones are finished. Some of them are fairly straightforward. Most of the long-term ones have been being worked on for a while. But we'll have a bunch of relics this reign, and then when we're done, you have Power Ranger weapons, which was also if I ran against somebody and lost, I ended up with a bunch of Power Ranger legal Amp Guard legal weapons, so it was a win-win for me regardless. Any other questions? Otherwise, I got one that Bremen has. Do you want to read your question, Bremen, or should I read it out loud?
Go ahead.
All right. So, what are your thoughts on award cadence, particular higher levels? Parentheses, number of awards received at one time or in a reign. And what would you say to a person who thinks they were over rewarded in a previous reign where awards were going out crazy fast? So, I think it is possible to go up like 7, 8, 9 in a single reign. Basically, provided you are just crushing crushing it in all of the tournaments we host in either Art of Science or fighting, or basically being the autocrat for every event. But getting more than one of like 8+ is kind of rare. I don't think we should have that many people that are doing that unless they're extremely active in that field. Like if you're winning back-to-back Weapon Masters or back-to-back Dragon Masters, or you literally ran GAC and then Dungeon Day and then MAME or something like that. If you're running constantly events, it's really hard to get those top level ones without constantly being present or doing things. And I think to a certain point, it's going to be even closer to impossible to do that with Flame, because in order to jump from like 8 to 10 in a single reign, you're going to be splitting your time and mental state and effectiveness to a point that you're not going to be as effective as if you were just focusing on one event. So I think for cadence, high level awards, I wouldn't expect anybody to jump more than like 8 to 9 or 9 to 10 or my plan for masterhoods, by the way, is masterhoods are for body of work. I believe that 10 does not equal masterhood. 10 should be a representation of or masterhood should be a representation of everything you've contributed and done towards this goal. That means that 10 and masterhood are often going to be handed out at the same time, but I'm going to identify the difference. The best one that I can make an example of in the past couple of years is Cue Balls. Cue Ball was given his 10th for making 72 very nice tunics in a year, and then his masterhood was handed out because he has consistently created tunics for the Kingdom of Polaris and Keep on the Borderlands and various fighting companies and everything. He's been consistently creating high level content and making sure people get that content and that garb on the field on a regular basis. And he had increased the level of garb in our kingdom by himself an amount, but like everything is a group effort technically. So in a group setting like that. If you were over rewarded in a previous reign, I would recommend your knight's path is your knight's path. I don't want to tell you how to feel about the awards you have, but if you feel like you have too many awards for what you have done, I know in my specific case, I would hand them back or drop them until I feel comfortable with them. There's been several times in my path that I have looked at something that I think is going to be awarded and then asked either the monarch or my knight to step in and say, don't give him anything for this. He doesn't feel like it's ready, because the path is your standard. If you feel you're doing fine and you have everything going in that direction, I'm not going to tell you you're not, but I'm going to award you based on my standards. If you have more than I think you deserve, I'm not going to take them from you, but I am going to expect that you match the next level expectation. So if we have an example of someone that went from like 6 to 7 or 6 to 9, and the level of work they're creating is constantly a 6, I'm not going to award them that 9 just because they're making content. I want to see that 9 to 10 jump. I want to see that fundamental change and that extraordinary benefit coming from whatever that thing is. So in my reign, if you're over rewarded, do not feel bad about dropping or giving back awards that you don't feel like you've earned. Your path is your path, and you can make that as hard as you want, because it's up to you to find the way you feel comfortable moving forward and achieving the goal of knighthood, because it's a responsibility and a burden, and it should be not taken lightly ever. It should be taken as a relationship with the kingdom and the game, so that you are a benefit to the game and the kingdom all the time in this sense. And if you don't feel like you can do that, don't take the award, don't take the knighthood, don't take the masterhood. There's a level of expectation that comes with every award that goes out, that kind of expects that you're going to continue to do work of this caliber. So if you're okay living with that expectation on you, and that makes you drive harder, like you feel like you're only making 6th level orders but you got an 8th or 9, if that pushes you to make 10th level stuff, great, do it. But if you don't feel like it's the right path or the right weight for you, drop them until you feel comfortable. Does that answer the question, Brevin?
Yeah, it does. It's just something I've heard from a couple of different people. So I was curious your thoughts on it. Thank you.
I do not have a Sword of Darkness, Yaris, partially because that weapon is super complicated to make amp card legal. It looks really dope, but it's really curvy and thin. if I was gonna do anything, I might do the Ranger Slayer version of it, which is a bow, which would still be really tricky and hard to do because it's essentially two swords together. So I like the Sword of Darkness, but I don't have a Sword of Darkness relic. Dahlia, related question: do you think someone needs to autocrat an event to receive a Master Rose, or do you believe that more consistently being on event bids and helping running should qualify? Okay, we're gonna get into one of my hot takes real quick. I don't think running an event is a rose. I also think that roses and lions are very, 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 very close. I also think that crowns and lions and roses are the same-ish thing. So, if you run an event, I think you should get a lion. That being said, I understand people not wanting to take a path that they have gotten to 5 or 6 on and then try to turn around and start running events and start their path over again, because we do consistently hand out roses for doing non-crap work at events. I think you can build them up both at the same time. Running small events or being a minor crat on any event should get you lions, not roses. Being a grunt helper or just assisting in the kitchen or just like doing service work without the background of organization and getting prepped for it is roses. I think Bremen is a very good example of what a master rose job is. Bremen was not the crat for Keep on the Borderlands. He was castle crat, but that's much more of like a figure out how to move the castle around and get people to make the castle and take it apart job. It's a much more grunt style position than the financing and organization and stuff like that. And that is a master rose. He looked at a problem that needed to be fixed and he fixed the problem on site and then did it again the next 2 or 3 years. That's rose. That's service to the game as service. A lion is the organization side. If you put together finances for the event, if you organize the way the kitchen's going to run, if you are, Trashocrat is closer to a service, is to service than it is organization. Gatecrat is definitely towards lion. Security is more towards service. There's things that I have opinions on where they line up with, but like autocrat should definitely be a lion because it's specifically leadership and organization outside of office. That's one of my hot takes. But so I have specifically asked, anytime I run an event, I get a lion, not a rose, even though I'm at 7-ish roses. And like 5 or 6 lions. I'd prefer to feel like I prefer my path to be my path, and the way that I feel progressing is the way that I want to progress. So, any questions on that? Comments, concerns, personal attacks?
Does lion even go into a knighthood?
Yes. Ask
I forget
Megiddo.
what it is. Man, fuck that guy too.
Lion goes into rose, or lion goes into flame. Crown, Orders the Crown is the only one that goes into Crown. Battle is the only one that goes into Battle Master. Rose and Flame, or Rose and Lion go into Flame, and then you have Dragons, Owls, Garbers that go into Serpent, and Sword is the only one that or Orders of the Warrior, the only one that goes into Sword. So.
Was lion something that was changed to become like a knighthood, or has that always been a thing? And I just like
it's always been a thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just going over my head. Thanks, appreciate you.
Didn't Griffins go into Sword?
They used to. They don't know more. But yes, they used to.
Yeah, what good are griffins anymore?
I think it's really bad if you get a warlord without having any griffins. Just saying.
How common is that?
Like, griffins should be handed out a lot. They don't go anywhere, but they should be an indication of a player's level of respect for the rules. Like, Morpheus takes basically anything that touches him, regardless if it's really a legal shot or not. He'll take it. So having that level of connection to the rule of like, I'm gonna take it, this you made around my guard, whatever, that level is going to be, if he's winning and still following those rules, he's playing on even a harder level than most other people. So if you don't have griffins and you get a warlord and your kingdom gives out griffins on a regular basis, that should be an indication that you might be playing in gray areas, or people might not be thinking you're taking everything. McNichols says, at Hot Ones, Broton and I felt that roses are a catch-all and goes there because people don't know what a lion or smith does for life. Missed Smith. Smith goes into flame too. Smith goes into flame. Which is very true. Griffins don't go anywhere technically. Absolutely. Griffins should be a badge of honor that goes into its own title, I think. Even if it's not a knighthood, Griffins should have a cool, high-ranking title. That'd be dope. Technically, monarchs can hand out their own masterhoods of non-ladder awards, so we can do that. We can throw that in the Kapora and people can live with it later. But Griffins used to go into Warlord, or not, they didn't go into Warlord, but they went into Sword Knight. And masks used to go into Serpent. Yeah, masks used to go into Serpent, which was a long time ago. I think there's only like 3 master masks that became Serpent Knights based on that mask. And I know the first one was Sir O'Bannon. He might be the only one, technically, because they might have been after they switched them to dragons. Yeah, any other questions? Comments, concerns, personal attacks. Otherwise, I'll go to my list.
A question about how do you feel about people not taking shots that are partial blocks?
That's them sloughing the shot. Okay, so here's where it gets tricky. The rules state that in order for a slash or stab, specifically it's a slash that we're mostly talking about when it's a partial blocking. Partial blocking stabs is fairly straightforward. You either got the block and it slides off you, or you didn't get the block and it hits and stops in any fashion. Those are pretty straightforward. Chops and slashes and stuff like that land and make an audible pop on like the glove, but then also get past and hit the wrist, is a little bit of a gray area, because technically there was an audible pop, it did stop and or deflect, and it did hit a strike legal area with a strike legal section of the weapon. Some people have tried to rule that off as, well, the pop came from my glove, not the weapon hitting my striking surface. And I think that is playing in a gray area that we shouldn't have. I think even if you block most of the shot and it still hits your wrist, you should take the wrist. Also, it just means that you're getting better if you learn how to block those. It's fairly straightforward. If you play on a stupidly difficult level, and can consistently get better and get to that point, then you're just gonna be better. McNichols has, did I answer the question, Hopper?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay. McNichols asks, how do you feel about doing an inner kingdom event that's not Keep with some of our neighbors, Rivermore, Tal'Dagor, 13 Roads, Rising Wind sometime next year? So, it's tricky. I like inner kingdom events. I like making Amcard more accessible to everybody and having more events around the kingdoms and working with our neighbors. Historically, there are very few inner kingdom events that last longer than a year. It kind of depends on what our intention with this somewhat event coming up would be. So if it is a thing we want to try to make consistent and have every single year, we need a lot of prep, we need a lot of dedication, and we need a lot of guarantees from the participating kingdoms that they're going to keep putting the same amount of effort into it every single year for like 5 or 6 years. Because if we don't, it falls apart and dies. If it's a thing that we want to just do to see how it goes, that's a lot easier. We can figure out how to throw together an event in 9 months and still be financially on top of it and have everything going. We just got to make sure the site's locked out. So I'm all for more events. But the working with other kingdoms means that we have to plan farther in advance, and we need to make guidelines and rules about how finances and benefits are split up. It's just more planning, but I'd be up for it if I see a good enough bid. Any other questions, comments, concerns, personal attacks, jokes about Power Ranger corniness? Best female ranger. Oh, okay. That's Izzy. She's one of the newest rangers. She is super athletic and spunky. She's the first female Green Ranger, and she's the first female Power Ranger to actively throw away the skirt as part of the outfit. She's also the first canonically gay ranger, which she's breaking a ton of boundaries, and she's a fan. The actor they have doing it, her last name is Garcia. No, Garcia is there. I can't remember her name. She's doing a great job, and she actually, the level of acting in the show is increased. It's unfortunate this is going to be the last section of Power Rangers in this canonical universe, as Hasbro has declared that they're restarting or reigniting kind of things. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, best female ranger right now is Izzy. Green Dino something ranger. There's too many dinos. Whatever the newest one is. Me Nichols says, who's your first ranger crush and why is it Kimberly/Tommy? It was Kimberly. We all know why it was Kimberly, because it's Kimberly. It did not become Kat when Kat took it over, though. It was definitely just Kimberly, because gymnast with skirts and shorts and punkiness is pretty hot. Tessa Rao. Yes, thank you, Dahlia. Tessa Rao is the actress for Izzy, and she's fucking killing it. Let's see. Oh, okay. Weeze has another question here. Do you personally support Polaris remaining part of Keep? As a current member of the TKN board and a person that has attended every Keep since joining AmpGuard, if it continues to be in Indianapolis, I believe we should probably step away and let Winter's Edge take our position and focus on trying to increase outside traffic to keep on the borderlands potentially. But Indianapolis is a very far drive. It's very hard for us to try to remain part of an event that is, especially with World's End joining us, a 10-hour drive or 12-hour drive or something like that. It's very hard to state that we should continue to be part of an event that is that far away for most of us. It's 10 from the cities this year. Oh, dear God. Okay, so I don't know. My scope of driving is
I think
all.
you're driving to Keep.
Yeah, if you're driving to Keep, it's 10 from the cities.
No, are you driving to Keep?
Oh, yes,
You.
I'm driving to Keep.
And can I ride in Essex?
Yeah, we gotta go pick my brother up from Wausau first, but yeah,
I don't know where that is.
it's in the middle of Wisconsin.
Is it on the way?
No, but if I drive up to the cities and pick you up and then go over to Wausau
Fuck
and then
it.
drive
I'll
down.
find another ride. That sounds terrible. Nah, I'll talk to you later about it.
Yeah, I'm going to Keep this year and gonna do a bunch of videography work, and I am driving to Keep. In the past, let's see. So I went to Tennessee, which was a 14-hour drive with Michael, and then we're going to Canada in 3 weeks, and that's a 12-hour drive. And then Keep is a couple weeks after that, and that's like an 8-hour drive. So I'm not afraid to drive for AmpGuard. That being said,
I organize a Polaris caravan.
Yeah. That being said, I understand that my level of travel and dedication to running around the country is outlandish and ridiculous to ask for anybody. So 9 hours, maybe Nichols posted 9 hours from the cities to keep on the Borderlands this year is pretty rough. If you do fly it, it's about like 30 between 30 and 90 minutes based on traffic to get from the airport to site, like to all set up on site. It's actually a pretty quick little jaunt over to the event. So flying is not a terrible option, especially with gas prices all the way up. But if Keep on the Borderlands consistently is going to stay in Indianapolis, it's really hard to argue we should stay part of that event, especially when there are other kingdoms that are definitely closer to it. Yeah, it's also, there's a couple other things that I think the TKN board needs to work on in order to make sure that Polaris and the other kingdoms stay interested in Keep on the Borderlands, because we are giving up time and money and effort to try to make an event good that most of us can't afford to attend. So yeah, that's my take on that one. Comments, concerns, questions?
One of the major comments that I've got is the price of Keep this year. That is outrageous. And
I disagree. The event price in Amcard is already astronomically tiny. I believe Penzik is like $100 a day. Some of the larger Bell and Dag events are something like 120 for the weekend, and they only feed you once. Otherwise, you're expected to bring your own food. In the scope of large events, Keep is still cheap. I know that it doesn't seem like we are making the event, an event that costs $80 should be represented by a bunch of people wanting to show up and having better battle games and having a higher level of quality for it. And I think that we definitely need to get up there, but we can't do that without actually having money in the coffers to do things. So,
Also, you can volunteer to drop it significantly.
oh hell yeah!
Volunteer during the time.
It's the the Comic Con convention method. If you work for, what is it, like 4 hours or something like that, you drop it to $50. If you help put together the castle at all, that also drops it. Like the system for getting your price down to what it was last year is basically just make sure you help out a little bit and you're golden on that price. They're also feeding you more this year, and I believe they got a liquor license so that you can purchase alcohol from one of the vendors on site. And I believe it's available with some of the meals, but not all of them.
okay, you broke it down. You broke it down to the way that, okay, understandable now.
Mm-hmm. It's
and I knew about the having the money go down for the volunteer work.
Mm-hmm.
So
it looks like some of the people in chat are talking about avoiding Chicago as much as possible. I mean, Chicago at 2 a.m. is really quiet. Just saying. It's real quiet driving through Chicago highways at 2 a.m. if you really want to avoid traffic. But otherwise, yeah, it's not a great trip through Chicago if you have to drive through Chicago to get to Indianapolis. Chicago's beer cringe. Yeah, it's a little rough.
yeah, don't get me started on that one.
Nichols, you arrived at 5 p.m. That is prime rush hour. No wonder you didn't leave till 7:30. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Penzik War is over 200, and that's only to get in. They don't provide food at all. There we go. Cool information. Penzik is like 5 days though as well.
Penzik is 2 weeks actually.
Holy shit.
They have a war week and a peace week, so you can choose which week you want to go.
I mean, McNichols, yeah, we want to be like the SCA if we're able to make like 15K on an event. Because Penzik, I believe, brings in like 2,000 to 3,000 people over the entirety of the event, which would be at $200 a pop, a ton of profit. I'm not saying I want to join the SCA. That's a lot of work. I like hitting people with foam sticks, and I like being able to yell at people that I have magic powers and they have to go away. So I'm going to continue to play Amp-Guard until I'm dead. Okay, let's see. What is another question? Well, that'll work. Okay, another question on Wheeze's list is, what would you say your conflict resolution style is? If you got to hear me talk at all about conflict resolution or problems at MAME at all, it is we solve the problem by preventing the problem first. And if a problem has occurred, there is no, we solve the problem immediately regardless of what we have to do. And I'm going to take command and make sure that it works if I'm in that position. So trying to think of what I can use as a good example from MAME that will work well. Our golf carts weren't working as well as we wanted going up and down hills, so I straight up authorized Tegan and Duran to drive their vehicles up and down to get people in and out of the battle games as quickly as possible. And I believe Tegan hit me up for the gas money. If he didn't, Tegan, make sure you hit me up, and I will actually refund you for some of that driving around. But it wasn't that far. But making sure that if we find a problem and it needs to be solved, that problem needs to be solved as quickly as possible, or at least put in a safe position first before we can discuss and talk about it. So conflict resolution, if we have two players that are fighting or arguing about XYZ or a rule or whatever, the best way for me to deal with that is to know the rules better and explain to them why either of them is wrong or what the correct answer is. If it's something personal, just make sure that they can't go to park at the same time until we solve it a different way, either through mediation or through secondary discussions. I'd rather separate the fighting dogs first than find out why they started fighting in the first place and deal with that problem next. So my conflict resolution is control, maintain, fix. Did that make sense? I'm gonna take that as a yes. Secure, contain, protect. There you go. Wheeze has another question. Do you have any plans for potential fundraising efforts? And if not, would you be open to having a fundraiser? I believe the board of directors is already talking about trying to work 1 or 2 games.
Oh my gosh, yes! So many games!
So if we can get the board of directors to run, it was either Twins or the Vikings games. I don't remember which one. But it would be Vikings, cool.
Vikings.
It'd be a couple $100 that we get to, a couple hundred or a couple thousand, whatever the number is. It's money we get to throw.
150 per person who volunteers.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's just keep throwing that. Like, I'll volunteer to do that stuff. I'm happy serving people beer and making them excited. That's a good fundraising thing. The other problem that I've noticed we have fundraising and money wise is because Polaris as a kingdom's money comes from our events. We have to run events that are profitable. Just write bids that are profitable and write them for contingencies that are profitable. That'll help us a lot. Fundraising in the modern age of any large amount, something more than $500, is mostly done through grants and paperwork and like filing some other rich person to give us money for X, Y, or Z. So if we can get any information on grant writing or any grants that might possibly help us Those will be opportunities. I believe we have the correct paperwork now that we are a 501c3. I think that's what we needed to be, is a 501c3, but we need to have it in our bylaws that we're not actively against certain things.
We've been a 501c3 for years.
You're right. There was something in our Kapora that stopped us from being able to get grant money, I believe, but I might be wrong. I'm not a lawyer and don't plan on being. So if we can get grants, that's a huge amount of money that we can do, because our goal is to our board of directors mission statement is to progress and advance and play Amp in our kingdom, I believe, which we can write off as a bunch of different ways. So fundraising, the board and monarchy volunteers helping run Viking games and things like that to get money, trying to secure that slot for Parks to also get that opportunity so that Parks have some money, because we live in the Great North and the Great North does not let us play outside. So we need to find ways to get our kingdom's money, our Parks money, and let them use indoor spaces. Besides that, we need to not keep having angel donors, and we need to try and find opportunities and do some research and hunting outside of regular AmCard hours to find locations that we can potentially use for winter sites, because that's where most of our money on park levels go. So we have fundraising opportunities. If you want to do an internal fundraising opportunity, like taking money from our park members, Bribe the Reeve events are hysterical and fantastic and chaotic as hell. And Icehaven did 2 during the time I was Monarch, and I think we made like $300 or $400 each time. It's a little counterproductive because we're essentially taking money from our members or other parks members, which doesn't help us overall, but it still is a way to get some petty cash. Plus, they're fun and ridiculous. Any other questions, comments, concerns? See if there's any more comments on the Facebook page. Okay. Are you choosing guild masters this reign? No. I'm not choosing guild masters because guild masters is a way for paragons to skirt their responsibility as paragons to teach and educate. So if you know a paragon, they should teach and promote and help grow that class. They're essentially like knights for that class. It's kind of what the standard should be. If you don't know a paragon, we can get you in contact with one. There's plenty of them around the kingdom, and I don't know any of them that don't like to talk about their class. I've had most of them on a podcast or long form discussions, and it's very hard to get them to shut up once they start talking. So I'm not going to make any guild masters, because guild master is kind of an escape for paragons to be like, well, just go ask the guild master, instead of the paragons taking the time and opportunity to teach people their class and how to get better at it or battle games in general. I would also expect that of any Knights of Battle as well. McNichols, you made so many posts. And it looks like Aki has joined us.
Yeah, I didn't have anything better to do, you know.
Oh, do you have any questions for me?
No.
Okay. Oh, okay. So we just got another set. If you could keep one thing about Polaris the same, what would it be? If you could change one thing about Polaris, what would it be? If I could keep one thing the same about Polaris consistently all through time, is that we will shut up and work together and figure out how to get through any problem. Effectively, is just all hell. Like I haven't seen a problem that Polaris has come up against that we haven't just sat down and figured out what to do and come up with answers. We also have a fantastic board of directors, and we've been lucky enough to have a plethora of good leadership that see problems before they arise and then deal with them in advance. So Polaris's teamwork and leadership has been phenomenal and fantastic, and it blows my mind every once in a while when we watch other kingdoms have a fire or something else that we like could very well tell was coming down the road and nobody solved it before that. So I'd love to keep Polaris's teamwork and leadership the same and or better in the future, because Polaris is awesome. One thing I wish I could change about Polaris, I wish we had more parks that were in the middle of Wisconsin. It's a dead zone and it sucks, and it creates a schism between east and west that doesn't really need to exist. There are like, people got to live in the middle of Wisconsin first. There are like 3 cities there that technically support other LARPs fine. We just don't have anybody there now that's really into the amp guard scene, or into the LARP scene in the amp guard style. They're happy with Bell or Dag or whatever. So like Wisconsin's Wausau, Stevens Point, I want to say Middleton, I guess, before we hit Madison, or Middleton's like just outside Madison. There's spots that we could make it work. But then again, we need someone to move to that place essentially to start a park instead of recruiting from that location, unless we can get in on a convention or something like that and get some people started there. So it's really tricky and it's really hard, but I'd love to see us have more central Wisconsin parks. McNichols asks, how do you feel about storms? Is that TikTok Amp-Guard thing that is Amp-Guard, but they keep calling it not Amp-Guard, and assassins can
Yes.
auto-kill you from behind? Okay, it's stupid. They should stop doing that and tell us why they're mad at Amp-Guard, and we'll fix the problem, and then they can come play with us.
I think they've openly said why they're actually upset with Amguard.
Why are they upset with Amp-Guard? We're the best.
I don't know if you want to get that spicy while we're in here, but I can personally message you if you
That's
want.
spicy.
Is it a player?
Also, Aki, I love you.
Yes. I love you.
Okay, so we've got a specific player that they don't want to play with?
Yeah.
Move closer to me. I'll play with you all day. We're great fun here at ET.
Hey, Merric, what if it's you?
I will have a lot of questions. If it's me, I'll be very confused and concerned how they're mad at me and living in Chicago. Because I've only been to Chicago to play Amp-Guard twice. And neither time I think I made a big change.
I don't know, man. I think that's all it takes.
It's just 2 times showing up and they decided that Amp-Guard is dumb.
No, they decided that you're worth hating. You're worth leaving.
I'm worth the hate. If they hate on me so badly, they can come be the villains for my reign, and I'll let them yell at me all day long. They can be what's those something in Waldorf. The Muppets in the skits that are always
Waldorf and Statler.
there. We go, Statler Waldorf. Just they can Statler Waldorf me all day long. If I'm the actual problem. But yeah, I think Storms is it's got some issues mechanically from a game design standpoint. But they're basically playing Amp-Guard. What was that, Aki?
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of coming out of a substantial and killing everybody within 10 feet of me.
Fair and balanced.
So if we were to change that one rule, because that's not the only problem that they have, if we were to change that to an ability, phase bolts and phase arrow and banish and everything else would become so much more powerful. And it also depends on how they worded it. I know this is super hypothetical and stupid, but I'm gonna do it anyways. So we're gonna chase down this dog. If their ability states that when you come out of insubstantial after using this ability, everyone around you in 10 foot dies, then my favorite answer would be to banish your ass back to base and kill your whole team. That's the answer.
That is freaking hilarious.
It depends how it's worded. If it's you pop out and have to say an incant or something like that, then it doesn't do that. But I would just ban, like, if there's a thing listed that you can pop out of insubstantial and kill everyone within 10 feet, just banish those people all day long, or track them out before they can finish, or do something else to get them out of insubstantial. I don't know how their game specifically works, but I've been told it's basically Amp with some really stupid modifiers that just, I don't want to say they're like fourth graders playing D&D and not reading the rules, but it's pretty close. It has been explained. Okay. Oh, okay. So, yeah, just banish them first. The ability is, this is really stupid. Okay. Death hungers or hankers for my return. Harkens my return. There we go. Caster ends the shrouded state. Every player within 10 feet of the caster dies. May only be activated while the caster is shrouded. Just banish or track them before they finish the incant. You're done. They don't blow up automatically, but eh. Well, they don't have a scout. They're playing wrong because we just made scouts very important. Storms should stop playing storms and come back and play Amp Guard. That's what they should do. Any other questions, comments, concerns, personal attacks, jokes about basically anything? All right. I got another one from Wheez's list. How will you encourage and enable the populace to look the part for your reign? It's part of my campaign. If you dress up or create garb or wear garb or belt flags or whatever that are Power Ranger style, you get some benefits. Power Ranger garb is super simple. It's mostly like, especially the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, it is a flat color with a white diamond on it, and you have finished the tabard or hood or whatever. Like the hoods that I made are literally like one black square, solid color that goes up. This one's more complicated, but a solid color that goes over the top, and then another colored square on the back that's normal, or another white square on the back, and that's your whole thing. You just wear that, you get the Power Ranger benefits. It's very easy. Part of that is because having our populace learn how easy it is to make garb, especially because like this is all straight stitches. I know I've got some complicated stuff in here, and this is just a patch that I had in my remake. It's really easy to just make stuff. Like you can use straight stitching on most of your garb until you start getting complicated and doing applique and extra levels and a bunch of other stuff, and just starting on it is the biggest part. So once you get used to like how do you fold the fabric over to get your straight stitch ready, how do you pattern and everything else like that, the basic stuff that is mostly just sit down and learn for one time, once you get past that, it's super easy. You just go and make stuff, and scrap fabric is super cheap at Goodwill, so get that. Main Eagles asked if you could wrestle one other Polarican in a live pro wrestling match, who would it be? What would their persona name be? Oh, if you could wrestle one other Polarican in a live pro wrestling match. Okay, so I'm not a huge wrestling fan, but I do understand that they technically have to be in my weight class, which still most of Polaris, I think, is in my weight class. There are no real weight divisions in pro wrestling. Great. Okay. Okay, so my initial response is if I had to pro wrestle another Polarican, it would be Balder. Him and I have been best friends since literally the first day of kindergarten, so I trust him a lot, and I trust that we'd be able to figure out a routine that looked really dope and still ended up with like drama and cool stuff. I also know he can bench me and throw me around, so that's not terrible, and I can squat him at least. So I think I have to go with Balder to make it a real good show. If I'm trying to like actually beat someone, mm, might have to go with like Backpack or Pop Tart. Actually, it's probably got to be Backpack. Pop Tart has got secret muscles. Um, and try to wrestle Backpack.
But what's your name gonna be?
Oh, Dalos already answered that. P-Hog.
And I don't know, Merrick, Aki totally called you out in chat, and I see you talking around her. That's a mark against you.
Do you want me to pick you up and throw you, Aki? I already proved that I can pick you up last week.
I can dead weight.
You weigh like 90 pounds.
110. Why does everybody get it wrong?
You weigh 110 pounds. I
Yes.
regularly lift and throw around material like rolls of banner that is 178.
Put your money where your mouth is. I'm just saying.
Okay, I'll pick you up and throw you.
She's claiming she can be floppier than a 110-pound roll of, or 170-pound roll of vinyl. She can be awkward.
No, the human body's pretty easy to grab in certain areas.
You've ever tried to pick up a stray cat?
Yes, I also did wrestling for 5 years.
I don't want to talk anymore.
Zach is the one that got me into wrestling, so whatcha? And then he did it in college, or he did it in high school, and I was like, no, I'm done with that. I'm gonna go play hockey still. And then he still played hockey and also lacrosse. He's athlete for days. Yokozuna versus Bret Hart. I'll have to figure that out later. Also, Aki, there's no K in my name. Get it right.
Okay, I have been telling people that for like a year now, and everybody keeps spelling it with a K, so I was gaslighted into thinking that that's how you spell it.
Nah, it's just MERIC, comma, the 15.
What K?
And there's no K. Perfect. Beautiful. I like that it says edited right next to the C. Think. Oh, okay. I didn't answer this one on Weeze's list. I think this will probably be the last one, and then because it's now on hour 2. Yeah, we're into hour 2. What is an aspect of Amp Guard culture you would like to see improved? I love our kingdom a lot because this isn't a problem I have heard of often. I have heard of it a couple times, but not anywhere near the number of times I've heard it from other kingdoms. I would love all of our players to treat non-binary and non-men equally in combat. It'd be great to not hear stories about players specifically not taking strikes from people that they don't think can hit them hard enough. Our game requires very little actual strength. It's mostly about speed. So there's no reason that you should be sloughing shots from somebody that's not a man. Polaris doesn't really have this problem. I haven't heard it very often, and when it does happen, people normally get talked to and we fix the problem. But Amp-Guard as a whole, that's one of the things that pisses me off the most is when I hear, well, I'm not taking part in a tournament because XYZ people keep sloughing my shots. That's not acceptable. We should just kick that person out of the game for a hot 30 days or, 3 months or 6 months or whatever, and let them simmer on the fact that they were actively cheating. And if they're going to continue to actively cheat, they shouldn't be allowed to play our game. I guess it's another one of my hot takes is that I'm super annoyed when people cheat in our game because this is a game. Just play it. Any other comments, questions, concerns, personal attacks? I guess wrestling memes. I can dead weight. Weighs less than a sack of taters. Yes, Aki, you weigh less than a sack of taters, according to McNichols.
Man, that's not fair.
Now, if we were playing like, what is it called when they can champion? Is it just called championing? I could be really screwed because you could tag in Shane, and I know Shane can throw me.
Shane can probably bench press 3 times your weight.
That would not surprise me. That would surprise me. I don't think Shane can.
I'm sorry.
660.
It's leg press.
Oh, he could probably leg press 660. Yeah. That's not surprising. If he could bench 660, I'd be more concerned about which bars he's using. Otherwise, anything else? Comments, concerns, questions? Because that's what we're here for, technically. All right, if that's it, we've got 2 hours of content. It's one of my shortest podcasts ever. I'll get it posted up at some point, and I mean probably tomorrow or something. There's no editing involved in this thing. And thanks y'all for joining, and I'll see y'all later because I'm gonna travel around and be at Quals.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Merric.
God, it's so hot.